Why, hello there. I'm going to teach you fine folks how to... Oh gosh, words. I'm going to teach you fine folks how to properly launch and catch the planes for this submarine. It's a bit of a process, but kind of easy once you get the hang of it. We're going to start by opening this door here. Alright, you can then start by taking this cable, which is stowed right here, if I could ever grab it. Put it into the winch, and attach it right to this little node on the bottom here. Okay, I don't know how that happened. And then attach this here, so this line should be attached just like that. And these correspond to the position of the plane for the mag connectors. Obviously, if you're going to take like the second plane, you want the first and second released, but since we're just taking the first plane, we're just going to release the first one. The rope will automatically kind of start to pull the plane out, but you can assist it here with the winch. It should grab onto the second rail like that. And then pull it up. Also, just a little side note. This switch is best kept on when moving on from this main rail to this hanger rail due to this joint. This switch deactivates these two back connectors. However, the front switch right here is in charge of these three connectors up front. And these are basically what hold it to the rail, but by having these disconnected allows it to move more freely through this joint. So when moving it around on the rail, it's just recommended to have that back switch left on, which disables the connectors. Obviously, when we come to reload it with the crane, you're going to want these back connectors active, so we'll turn this off, but we'll get to that. Alright, and here we go. You just throttle up, and once this hits 19 RPS, the rail will release, and you're good to go, just like that. Alright, and obviously at some point you're going to want to come back to the carrier. Personally, when I prepare for landing, I like going right here to half throttle. And it allows the plane to kind of come down to a nice speed. And then I drop it to about just over a quarter. And I drop it down to a quarter. And that lets for a nice touchdown right in the lake. Now to taxi, just under half is fine. And just keep your rear flight surfaces in the water, and you'll have get around the smoke, and you'll actually have really good maneuverability in the water. And you can just run across the wing. And now, at this point, you're going to want to go into your settings if you're using low physics detail. It's in the general tab. You're going to want to switch this up to high. It might lag your game out a bit, but then you can now deploy the crane. As the crane's going up, good rule of thumb is to release some tension on the ropes here. It'll allow it to come down easier. You can see the tension on the ropes coming down, slacking up right there. There's a wave coming. Let's get rid of that. And then once the crane comes up, the gravity should cause the head end to come down. Just like that. And then we can start swinging it over to us. I'm going to keep bringing this down so it's level and it's easier to get these ropes onto. This next part can be a little tricky due to swimming physics with ropes and whatnot. I recommend getting the plane as close as possible. It makes it a little bit easier. You just take one of these. I could probably bring that down a little bit more. There we go. Much better. Yeah, get over here. Just come up here, attach the ropes to the plane, like so. Alright, now I got the plane all hooked up. Now for the difficult part. So you're going to want to put some tension back on this. Actually, better yet, swing it out over the plane. That way it's not hitting the side of the ship. And then you can put some tension back on the crane and also start raising these ropes here. And that should be good there. Raise this up a little bit more. Alright, and then we can start swinging the crane over. And now this crane is long enough to where the plane will clear it, so you don't have to worry about that. And then just line up this with your launch rail. And now this up here can turn, so you can orient the plane with the launch rail. Makes it a little bit easier. Then we can start bringing it down. And now removing this switch up here, it's the one we talked about. That'll make it so these connectors are active. It'll just make it a little bit easier to get it on the rail. Being a little difficult at the moment. It tends to do that from time to time. Just lift that up real quick. There we go. And if you can land that mag, it does get a little bit easier because then the plane is now fixed into a position. And you can start bringing this down. wrong way. And voila. Your plane is now on the rail. Now you can just start by disconnecting these. And if it's a little difficult, if the crane's up there and you don't want to deal with the crane, you can just jump right here in the cockpit. And then it puts you right on the top of the plane, and you can just get the ropes that way too. So now that we have the plane positioned, we want to re-engage this switch. That's so we can make that smooth transition through this rail. All right. So here we are. We have the plane loaded up. You're going to want to make sure that this switch is turned on. The plane is now folded. And then all you have to do is just take this, grab it, and slide it back. It'll start to slide back to this notch here, which these should stop it before anything bad happens. A good rule of thumb, though, you don't really have to do this. You could just physically slide it in. Works just as good. But this is just to kind of put that extra piece of tension on the plane, just so it's constantly pushing it back. It helps against potential derails. Bring this rope up here, attach it to that little notch right there. Now normally the rope won't fit or won't be long enough if it's in the mag here. I'm planning on adjusting that. I'm probably going to wind up moving this to the back of the tail. That should give it enough distance for you to attach it to the plane. But then from this point on, you're attached. You want to make sure to turn this mag back off. That way the plane can attach. And then you want to engage this switch here, which you can see I had engaged, but we're going to re-engage it. And then you're going to start to lift the rail up, just enough to slide the plane up onto the secondary rail. See, it's coming up, and there it goes. From here you can bring that back down. You can see the rope is pulling on it, so it's pulling the plane back. And you can give it a little shove if you want. And voila, your plane is now stored. So you can close the door here. And then now storing the crane. Oh, actually, yeah, no, we'll leave it on. At this point, you just flip the crane around, and you start putting tension to it again to lift the crane back up. This is so that way when you're underwater, it's not floating up, which the crane does a pretty good job at staying down, so. Yeah, just bring the crane just around like that. And once you're flush, you just flip the switch. And the crane will come back. Maybe a little bit more tension on that, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere when you submerge. And it's fine, it's got a pad, so it won't damage anything when it comes down. And now at this point, you can go back to your physics, set them back to low. This will clean up your game quite a lot. And then you just come back here, and you remove the rope. Close the doors, and you've successfully just stowed your airplane.